Right. If you get an opportunity, you need to study Chattahoochee State Mental Hospital in Chattahoochee, Florida. It's about 45 miles from Tallahassee. It's in the Florida Panhandle. That was one of the places that I know during the 60s they did a lot of psychological mind warfare treatments on people there, shock treatments. They used people for guinea pigs there, and then they actually made a movie called Chattahoochee. And I know people, I personally know people that worked there at that time that said that they thought that things were very torturous, but the doctors told them, well, this is medically necessary. This is medically required. And said, you're a nurse or you're an orderly. You don't question me. So they were scared and told not to say things. But over the years, they said they become more and more aware of that it was actually human torture. They were figuring out how to get people to act out and how to guide them towards one acting out versus another, and how they could actually get them to the point to commit suicide, kill their own self. And a lot of things were not in that movie. A lot of things were far worse. And I got this first testimony from people, because people be joking about, if you say Chattahoochee, you're going to take somebody to Chattahoochee, they're liable to try and kill you. And I said, why? So I started hearing these stories, because I was working in a nearby community, and if I had to take somebody to the mental ward, that's where I'd have to take them. They said, so although they've cleaned up and they're basically on the straight and narrow now, said, for 20 or 30 or 40 years, they was not. And so, I'd hear all this stuff. And in Rusk, Texas, the Rusk, Texas State Mental Hospital, that was another place that they did a lot of this stuff. And so I did some checking and contacting, and some of this MK Ultra was supposed to have taken place at Chattahoochee State Mental Hospital and at Rusk State Mental Hospital. And so, I'm connecting a lot more dots. I'm telling you, the last 24 hours, my mind has been in a whirlwind trying to connect thousands of dots from things I've seen and heard my whole career, but I didn't necessarily connect them. And I've got an inquiring mind. I used to listen to Coast AM all during the 90s and until recent times, and, I'd hear these people from Area 51 and Grooms Lake and mind control techniques and stuff, and I'd search some of that stuff out from these talk shows I'd listen to. So I'm familiar with a numerous amount of information, just not this specific things that you're talking about, although I have heard of very, 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 very few cases like this through my career, heard of it, but wasn't actually working with it or working with anybody that was doing it or the victim of it.
All right, thanks for your response, Chief Daymond. Let me see if Doug's line is clear. He's the next caller. Doug, I'm trying to unmute your line. See if it's unmute. Oh, for some reason you're...
Okay. Yeah, I was just wondering, after all the years that and all the complaints that the police have been getting, what is your thought about the general population within the police community? Is that when people call and complain about harassments like these, are they more believing it now? Like I said, it started back in the 90s, actually in the 80s, right? So I can't imagine that this is going on so long, and the police are finally getting to realize that this is a real crime going on. and where people can go to the police station and complain about it without having to be put into a mental ward. I just don't know if what you understand about that.
Right. Well, I'm going to say that if you talk to 99% of the police, no matter whether they're a city cop or an FBI agent, doesn't matter who they are, where they're at, for things that you're saying and your claims, and I believe they're valid myself. If you tell that to 99% of the police, they're going to say they got a loose screw. Something's wrong with them. But they're going to dismiss you as harmless overall. You know, this is a harmless old man or woman. You know, they're confused. They got dementia. This is how they're taught to think. If they can't fix the problem, if they're told there's nothing they can do, then they're taught a script. You know, like humor them. If they're not real threat to themselves or you or the public, just, you know, pacify them, tell them, okay, you'll take a report, have a good day, you know, we'll look into this, and just get them to go back home. You know, find out who their caretaker is. This is how police are taught. So it minimalizes it, and it's just like, oh, well, you know, you're one of our 3 or 4 crazy people around here.
That's
not what happens a lot. It's not what happens a lot of times. Go ahead, Doug.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. It's got to be by word of mouth that there are so many complaints about this stuff that they can't start thinking for themselves and say, there's got to be some truth to this. So there's so many people complaining, you know.
Well, I've worked in communities that had 500 people in the community to a little over 1 million, and everything in between. And so I never had nobody coming to me when I was working station duty. You know, people would come in and file all kind of complaints. People would call in and, you know, give you a complaint on the phone. I've gone to people's houses and take complaints. And maybe only 2 or 3 times ever was anybody in this arena saying things like they were hearing voices in their head or people was projecting images into their brain, or people was eating their brains, or people was heating up their inside, something fantastic, you know, that's out of this world stuff. And, you know, the particular people that were saying that in my cases that I can recall right off the top of my head, smoked crack, snorted cocaine, did methamphetamines, and so you're saying, hey, you know, they're having hallucinations, they're bugging out, you know, that they're intoxicating themselves with various substances and their mind is gone. So you just try and pacify them as, you know, your local cuckoos, okay?
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of cuckoos then across this nation and around the world.
But I'm saying hypothetically, say if I go to the police academy and I teach a class, say I come up with a curriculum. Okay, I got credentials. I've been around. I know a lot of people. Say I build a curriculum and I teach a 4-hour class or an 8-hour class or 40, whatever they give me, a class on psychological, chemical warfare, then first of all, I have to have all my research together that there are targeted individuals in criminal cases, but there's also targeted individuals by the federal government that's running this. The first thing they're going to say is, well, we don't deal with federal government things, per se. And they're going to say, well, where's the law that gives us the power that if this is really happening, how are we going to trace down the source of the harassment? And if we do, we don't have the knowledge and the skills and the engineers to tell us where it's coming from, how it's affecting them, and if we do, how can we prove it? And then we can't prosecute them in state court. We got to get them in federal court, and we're not federal police. So it's a convoluted system. So you first of all have to teach police to look out for it, to be aware of it, and say it's a real thing. Now, you do have people that have dementia. You do have people that are mentally ill. But then you have other people that are sane as a rock, and they're good people, and they are targets, and this is happening to them, and they are being abused and mistreated.
Well, that's where the local lawmakers come into play. And if we can get a local ordinance passed, then that would empower the police to look into this. And how between the city council and the police departments, like you say, you raised a lot of questions about how this could be enforced. That's something that they have to kind of, work out how to remedy. But that's a matter of working that out with engineers. I think it is possible. I don't have the training to tell them how to do it, but it's something that they would have to work out. But once those laws and those protocols are established, then that's would empower the police to come to our defense. So that's something that we're working on, actually.
Yes.
Chief Daymond, that's something we're working on in the city of Richmond in Northern California. So we are. There is some action in that area.
Right. Well, see, this has been my experience. If you take some city, you got anywhere from 5,000 to 25,000 people. Okay, you have enough. You don't have too big a population, but enough that you have good police resources. You have a reasonably good budget. If the city council passes some ordinance, they have to be constitutional, but they're constitutional ordinance, and they say we're going to provide these assets and these resources to our police to investigate claims of this type of crime. And it's going to be a crime to do these things within these city limits. Okay?
Right. So that's why I say that when targeted individuals, for instance, if they go to their police, if they go to their council, they can't say, well, the NSA is targeting me, or the FBI, because like you point out, they're just going to say that's not our jurisdiction. However, once we get an ordinance passed and that criminal activity is criminalized, then you can say, I'm being, attacked with microwave weapons, for instance. And then they would investigate that individual, whoever that might be, for that offense. And that's how you were prosecuted, I would guess.
Oh, yes, that's what I'm saying. You have to make these laws. I talked to a friend of mine in Minnesota today, and my friend said, because this person deals with special needs adults that have mental or physical disabilities from birth or, through an accident or something. Anyway, I was told that Minnesota, because I talked to this person about a lot of strange, out of this world, extraordinary things for probably 30 years or more. So this man understands this. I said, now, you told me, which I talked to him recently, I said, you told me the last time we talked that they were making a lot of special victim crimes in Minnesota and empowering the police to do it. I said, do you know anything about this? He says, I do know that they're trying to get some state laws passed that says that certain things about the air and water that's normally a federal thing, that they're making certain laws that it's a violation to do this, this, and this in this state. And so they're going to give police the resources to investigate. So they're a state that would probably be in line to do something like this, and they're starting to make state laws which are way more favorable than city ordinances, and they have a lot more power and a lot more resources, and they have the sovereignty of the state. And so what they do is they say, if somebody in any water system has any chemicals get in the system that's not supposed to be in there, and somebody gets harmed, then that's like aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. So it becomes a felony. And the local police can go down and check the water source and find out how did contaminants get into somebody's water system. And then they can prosecute them. So it wouldn't matter. If somebody did something that caused a radio frequency to enter the state airways that harmed somebody, then that would be an aggravated assault.
Right.
So that's what he was telling me. He said it would be something like that. But he said he hadn't heard of this specific targeting thing, but he did know of people that had said that the police or city officials or some county officials or state officials had been harassing them in numerous ways, and that they were going to make some state laws to protect the people.
Right, and we have encountered that in our dealings with local and state politicians, that they're unaware of this for the most part, but they are sympathetic. Right. When we went to Richmond City Council meeting in 2015, they were passing a resolution about this issue. When targeted individuals came up to the mic and one after the other started to speak about their pain and their suffering, the council members, they hadn't heard of it, but they wanted to reach out to them and find out, well, what is causing this? They were sympathetic and they wanted to help. So even though they were unfamiliar with this type of situation, they passed a resolution in support of targeted individuals. So
that's good.
So yeah, there are people that, and that's the issue though. In state politics, the politicians have not heard of this.
Right.
Therefore, it will be next to impossible, basically, considering state politics, for this type of legislation to pass at this particular time. That is my assessment. However, it's far easier to do something locally and get something passed, and I think it'll be far more effective, actually. Something local, because it covers the city just the same as the state, but then you also have the local police who will back up the ordinance. Whereas if there is a federal law passed, then it becomes a jurisdictional issue as to who enforces it. Is it the FBI that gets involved or who? And then meanwhile someone's at home suffering, waiting for the FBI to come. So it's I think a local ordinance actually would be preferable, in my opinion, right now.
Right. Well, here's the thing. They got these League of Cities, and when a particular city gets something new and unusual and different, and they might pass an ordinance that has to do with issues they're having locally, then these League of Cities, when they have these conferences, usually about once a year, then the legal staff ask cities for any new ordinances they passed that are different than these mainstream ordinances. And they find all kind of new things being passed. They said, well, how's that working for you? How are you coming on your research for this? How many arrests have you made? How many prosecutions have you done? And when they find something that they can duplicate, then they start showing, usually within a year, to other cities. City ABC over here passed a thing that said you can't spray at certain types of pesticides in the city because A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And this is how they work their ordinance up. It's past constitutional muster. These are the arrests they've made, and this is what's going on. Then other cities begin to do it. And then once you get, a dozen cities throughout a state doing something, then they start getting some of the legislature involved, and then they pass a state law.
Right. That's, I would say that's the way to do it. You start at the grassroots level and work your way up. For this particular issue, I think that's going to be an essential way to approach this because, and there are dozens and dozens of targeted individuals that are in contact with us in all the major cities, every single one of them at this point in time. So it's going to be a matter of us organizing and seeing who gets the ordinance passed first. But I think that we can get a local remedy, and I think that is a lot easier, infinitely easier than trying to do state politics at this particular time.
Sure.
But anyway, we're making some progress there.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we still have about 9-10 callers that are waiting. How you doing?
Well, I'm getting closer to being tired, but I can still keep going however long I can go.
Okay, well, just let me know when it's going.
It's about 11:30 here, so I think I can probably push till midnight, and I don't know beyond that.
Okay.
Well, thank you for hanging in there, Chief. I appreciate your input, and I just wanted to say that since you are doing some research and trying to understand a little bit about what's going on and possibly talking to some of the correct people out there, I just wanted to say that there's an awful lot of fraud involved in all of this, and it pertains to the money that has been put into place for mental health, and the veterans are also in trouble now with a new executive order that's just been put into place by Mr. Trump, $8.6 billion for mental health pertaining to veterans. So veterans, if you're listening, you better watch yourself out there. But I wanted to bring up a gentleman's name, Mr. Carter Page. He was involved in Trump's campaign and was accused of colluding with the Russians. And his constitutional rights, he was put on this list, and his constitutional rights was the first thing that was taken away. And he was targeted and tortured and manipulated and played with by our own intelligence people. And now he's been, brought out of the targeting and has cleaned his record pretty much, except for some questionable things. But I don't think he's targeted anymore. I'd like to also say that the people that were in the consulate in Cuba were targeted individuals. And then we go to this delusion thing that you guys were talking about earlier. The delusion is that we can't all have the same delusion. It's impossible for everyone to have the same delusion. I'd like to say that it is the perception from individuals of what is happening to them and how it's happening to them that differs. It's not the actual happening. And I'm glad to hear that you are doing something and knowing that you are connected with the right people and are planning apparently to do something. There is a lot of information out there pertaining to the fact that the mental health world did not have enough patience, and like the gentleman said a little earlier, they had to have patience to get their share of this money. It's about fraud and revenue, but if you're interested in hearing some other parts of some interesting stories, my name is Richard, and my number is 919-252-1103. But if you investigate Mr. Carter Page, you'll see that it was our government put him on the list and our government that attacked him. So just wanted to say.
Thanks for your comment, Richard. And a word of caution, Pastor Daymond, be careful of the National Enquirer. Okay, hi. You're talking to Pastor Daymond. Do you have a question for him?
Yes, thank you, Derek, and thank you for your excellent call tonight, and your guest is phenomenal. I hope he does come back. I'd also love to hear him on Ella's call. It's just a different audience, and perhaps going into more of the part here that kind of has me wondering is whether or not we need to approach it from both angles, one being the law enforcement one, which you know a great deal about, very, very helpful to us. And the other is being the medical, mental health. What I understand is that the American Psychiatric Association uses the diagnostics manual, the DSM manual. They actually created a whole section on us to call us delusional or paranoid or schizophrenic. Anyone that comes in and reports, hearing voices in their head, which we know can be done with technology and has been for years, is immediately by law enforcement instructed to label us as delusional and take us to the hospital to be evaluated. But usually at that point, once you get to the hospital, they're relying on what the law enforcement has diagnosed. So it's almost like law enforcement is acting like the primary diagnoser, and we're already discredited before we're even able to talk to someone who may or may not know something about this, but they won't even really listen to you at that point.
Well, for example, in my cases, okay, like outside of Dallas, I was working for a jurisdiction, and it's 1:30 in the morning. A man is running down the middle of the road naked. Okay, that's certainly not normal, nor is it safe. Now, at that particular time, my automatic knee-jerk reaction, based on my training and just being a human being, this man's running down the middle of the road naked. Is he drunk? Is he been smoking dope? Is he having a mental breakdown? Did somebody scare him and he took off in the middle of the night? What is going on with this guy? It's just a bizarre situation. I pull off the side of the road. I grab him, and I get him over to my car. And, of course, it's the middle of the night. We're out kind of away from things, and so there isn't anybody actually traveling that way at that particular time. And I said, "What's wrong with you?" "What do you mean?" I said, "It's the middle of the night. You're running down the road. You could get run over and killed, and you're naked." "What do you mean?" I said, "Okay, you can't even communicate with me." I said, "I don't know nothing to do." Anyway, I got a blanket, which we carried blankets for victims of shock. I gave him a blanket to wrap around him. I took him back to the police department, and I found some clothes that trustees wear, and we had some Goodwill stuff back there, so if somebody got sick or sold their pants or whatever, we gave them some different things to the city jail that, was donated to us. So I get him in something. I'm still trying to talk to him, and I said, are you hungry? Are you thirsty or something? I couldn't smell no alcohol in his breath. His eyes, I shined my flashlight in his eyes, and they performed correctly. I did my hands around, said, "Watch my hands," and watched his head and his eyes, and I didn't see anything neurologically wrong with him. Of course, I'm not a doctor, but I try to communicate with him, and he just doesn't communicate, but maybe at a 3 or 4 year old child's level. And I just can't figure this out for the love of money. So I take a picture of him. I still don't know who he is. I still can't identify him. I'm able to get a few good fingerprints off of him, but not much. I take him to Terrell State Mental Hospital, and I say, I can't get this guy to, I said, he can talk, but he just kind of answers questions, but he almost answers questions with questions. I don't know if he's voluntarily or involuntarily been intoxicated, or if he's mentally ill. I don't know this man from Adam's house cat. I know most of my people right here. I said, so I'm just trying to get him help. I said, y'all have a medical center here and psychological. I just want to get him help. And I said, so I can't remember what it's called, but in Texas it was the same thing where you could commit somebody. I've got a committee for evaluation and treatment and release. And so they said, well, somebody there said, yeah, he's been here a few times. He said, I know him. I said, okay. He said, that's your chief of police's son. I said, come again? They said, that is your chief of police's son. He was in Vietnam, and he had some injuries, some shrapnel injury to his head, and said sometimes he just blanks out. And said, and when he takes his medication, he's a pretty normal guy. Said he acts a little strange sometimes, but he's usually a good guy. He's always peaceful and nice and friendly. But sometimes he'll just get mad and won't take his medicine, and then he likes to run down the middle of the road or run through the fields naked. Said, we ain't never figured out why. Just something don't work right in his brain. They said, in fact, more than likely, we'll keep him here the night, and we'll give him some medication, and he looks a little dehydrated. We'll hydrate him. We'll feed him. We'll get him squared away, and probably in the morning we'll call the chief, and he can come get him, or he can wait till tomorrow and he gets off and come over here and get him, and he'll take him back out to his house. He has a trailer for him that he lives in by his house. I said, well, I know my chief of police said he had a son that was in Vietnam that had some mental issues, but I never met him. And he says, yep. He said, well, you met him. So I don't believe they have any malicious intent. And this guy here, they knew, and they knew him from Town Fork, so I believe there are people that do have mental illness. There are people that have mental illness due to self-intoxication for so many years, or they have dementia. So there's a section of people that do really have things wrong with them. Then there's people that's born that way or get that way from an accident. And then there's another section of people that have got that way because some government agency is doing something or has done something that's caused them to be where they're at now. And I believe that. The police will have to know, and we'll have to have ways to evaluate, and medical professionals to help us to say, is this somebody that's mentally ill because they were born this way, or their IQ's, more like they're almost in a retarded state, or is this somebody that's got a normal IQ, most things in their life is right, but they are hearing voices in their head? Is there a chemical imbalance in them, and is it something that they're doing? Is the government do it to them? So we can segregate what's real from what they're a victim. You know, is it an artificial thing that's being done to them, or is it a normal biological thing going on with them, and act accordingly? So it's going to require a lot of education and awareness.
Right. Yeah, it sounds to me like it's a cooperative venture between law enforcement and the medical professionals to help law enforcement evaluate the basis and causality of a person's strange behavior. Does that sound about right to you?
Exactly. Yes, ma'am.
Now my question is, you've worked with medical professionals. In your opinion, do you think they're at all open to hearing about this stuff, and how would we approach them with it?
I think there's a better chance in the last 5 or 10 years than there's ever been, because I know various doctors that are personal friends of mine. Some of them are psychologists, some of them are psychiatrists, some of them are chiropractors, medical doctors, DOs, so there's a wide range, and I know various nurses as well. And they watch a lot of YouTubes. And in fact, one of them sent me YouTube the other day and said, my God, Chief, can you believe this? And they were showing that in Detroit, I think it was, that people was putting water out of their faucet and they'd put a match to it and it'd light it on fire. And they said people was saying that their water was contaminated. People said they were blowing it up, and the government said it wasn't really that bad. It says, but when people can light matches to their water fountains, that's something you can physically see, and it's really bad. And I said, but a lot of people wasn't listening to them until they saw some real proof. I said, people want to see proof, prove it. But they're watching a lot of YouTubes, and their knowledge is gaining. And so some of them I know they have a very open mind. Some of them are like, well, we'll have to research this, and, probably in 10 to 20 years from now, we'll probably have a better grasp on it. Why can't we learn a tremendous amount of it in the next 90 days and start some sort of evaluation and treatment course and just keep learning? Well, that's not the proper protocols. I said, well, maybe it ought to be. So I'd say about a third of them are more open-minded, and they're studying and researching, and they're really open to things. I think maybe half to two-thirds are probably closed-minded. It doesn't follow conventional medicine.
All right. Thanks for your question and for your comment. Hi, welcome to the call. Do you have a question or comment for Pastor Daymond? Hello?
Hello? I'm sorry, I was on mute. Thank you for your time and service, and I just had a question in regard to, I don't know how to just say it. It's kind of, is there any situation where law enforcement just ignores gang members and it's just like, okay, and I'm just speechless because I know they've been messing with my phones, and I noticed like the prison gang tattoo, which is kind of like the barbed wire bracelet on their wrist, and the Mexican drug cartels like a ring of fire and skull and crossbones, and then the skull and crossbones with outlaws, and it's just like no matter what you say to them, they'll just say you're nuts, and you can see the actual tattoo. So I don't know.
Are you talking about just street gangs or a gang of government officials? What are you talking about, so I know how to answer?
I will say this. There's numerous different types of gangs, but they're all kind of associated together because it kind of goes like if you go to Judicial Watch, it will say like ISIS, the Mexican drug cartels, and then the outlaws distribute their drugs, and they're human trafficking to the other different gangs. Some of them are civilian, some are non-civilian, some are American, and some are non-American.
Uh-huh. Well, I think that the Fusion Center itself, one of its alleged claims to its being is to go after certain organized crimes, and gangs fall into an organized crime. And it goes under the RICO Acts and RICO statutes and various other federal titles and codes. So this is what they get, a certain percentage of their funding for is specifically for this. So they may have 15 different categories that they get funding for, and then each category might be like a branch on a tree, and it goes down to 2 or 3 other subcategories. But the president put that as a priority to dismantle gangs through Fusion Center technology and intelligence reports, to dismantle them locally, from city, county, state, nationwide, to break them down and stop them. And so that's one of their big focuses. And he had a hard focus on that from the day he went to the White House, but I'd say from people I know in the intelligence community, they say the last 6 months to a year said he has just, every time that they have a meeting, he hammers away at this. We got to deal with these gangs. We got to deal with these gangs. And he just keeps saying it over and over. So they know that that is a priority. So if there's a particular gang in a particular city or county or a small region, I couldn't possibly know, because everybody I know in intelligence says that's one of his pet peeves, that he just harps on and harps on and harps on constantly about these gangs, neutralizing them, prosecuting them, deporting them, putting them in prison. So that's the best I could tell you about that.
Okay, well, that does make some sense, because you kind of helped me out a little bit, because I do know some of them are, like I said, civilian and non-civilian.
Right.
And then, like, when I was telling them what they were doing to my phone, and I even told them some of the technology and a little bit even how people in the medical field are involved in it too. And I was telling them, you can look this stuff up on the FDA website, the patent, the schematics are everything there. And I know one of them did tell me that, like, when it comes to them, like, doing stuff with my phone and my computer, like, for example, like, a lot of times they'll call me and I won't answer, and then I'll call back and they're calling me from a no service or disconnected number. Well, a lot of times that's usually, not always, but a lot of times it is, I hate to say it, non-civilian. And with the cloak and stuff, a lot of times, I mean, there was articles in 2014 to 16 that, a lot of our reservists actually use that cloak and stuff and transportal stuff on a regular basis. Not only our military, but other people's military. But it just seems like for them, if they're tampering with your phones and our computer, there's nothing we can do. The service providers can't do nothing. Like C3 something, I mean, that just goes to your local police. I mean, I'm just getting the runaround, and I'm just frustrated, because I have been getting raped, and I know part of it's human trafficking too, and they like to rape a lot of individuals unconsciously, and they kind of make money off of it from people from other countries. So it's, I don't know, maybe I told them too much at once, and then now the last time I picked up a police report, they said I was crazy, and I'm never calling them again. Never. I mean, they're still investigating the rape, because I did claim that, but on some other stuff, like with the phones and that, I won't call them. I mean, I tell them about the tattoos, no respond. I don't even know if they looked up the prison gang tattoo. They're still running around my apartment complex, that and the Mexican mafia. Just like whatever.
Okay.
But thank you for listening.
Okay, thanks for your question. Hi, you're talking to Chief Daymond. Do you have a question or comment?
No.
Oh, hi, Kevin.
Hey, what's up? How's it going? What's going on?
Okay.
I just dropped in.
Oh, okay. Well, we have someone that he's a retired chief, and so he's answering my question. So keep listening. Hi, do you have a question or comment for Chief Daymond? Okay, there they go. Okay, Michael?
Hi, Derek. How you doing, Chief? My name is Michael.
Okay.
My name is Michael Shanefeld. I live in Birmingham, Alabama.
Uh-huh.
And you're retiring from Birmingham squad here in Birmingham?
No. My last retirement was Coffee County Constable's office outside of Enterprise, Alabama, down by Fort Rucker.
Oh, okay. You're out there by Fort Payne. Not close
No,
that
sir.
way.
I'm down right next to the Florida line.
Oh, okay. Oh, in Auburn. I got you. I was just curious. But yes, sir. I got a question. Y'all were asking earlier about did the chief know of any form of agencies that put out a form of victims to be observant and make notation based on predicate of what is happening. And that I was assigned to by chief agent and by the FBI in Birmingham, and been sending notation and by the Attorney General's section to keep in touch with the NCIS and FBI. Have been doing so. And the FBI in 2007 made me an internal viewer based off a EEG report line that they got on me with a 10 negative hertz percussion in my alpha brain exterior. And it was grown into more than that. The FBI said I had to prove that I had over at least 3 or 4 different biological internal reactions that would prove sustainably that there was no DNA formatic in my family or in me that would have caused it. And I was just curious where you were in Alabama, because I know a lot of people here in Alabama that are victims and that are being suffered. And I know a man named Eric Phillips. He was with the United States Navy, and I'm with the United States Chief Admiral of Operations, Admiral Richardson. And I'm also with Agent Nash. But there's a lot of victims here in Alabama. What that young man was telling you earlier about heart percussions and liver and all that, there's a lot of stuff that's going on. And I have a lot of medical insight on it here in Birmingham. I have a neurologist, I have psychologists, I have cardiologists, I have all formatic. I even have my neurologist putting me up under classification of CIA standing. Same as.
Okay, sorry, my internet is trying to come back up. So sorry about that. Okay, Michael, thanks for your questions. We'll come back to you later. Quickly, we just have a few minutes. Do you have a quick question for Pastor Daymond?
Yes, hi. This is Lorraine in New Jersey. How are you?
Okay.
Thank you so much for coming on. I've watched your YouTube videos and have commented. You mentioned earlier that you have a ministry and that one of the locations is in New Jersey.
Yes.
Can you disclose where that location is?
Well, I try and explain to people when they ask. I have what we refer to as home churches. In other words, I've utilized my own home as a church, and other people in various places have as well. So, like, for example, over in Texas, the man over there is in Odessa, and he has a home church, except he actually has a trailer, a long trailer, that can get about 30 or 40 chairs in there, and so he has church there on regular and irregular services. The man, and I ordained this man, and he's also an elder, and he has his services over there. The man in New Jersey, he come on about probably 2 years ago, and I'm trying to remember the name of the city, but he basically has a 2-story home, and he lives on the top floor, and he has his services on the bottom floor. And I actually lost track of him here about 6 weeks ago because he has no Social Security card because his mother refused to get him one. Oh. He's now about 35 years old. He's worked. They always ask him for his Social Security number. He says he doesn't have one. And he went and got the IRS code, and he says, here's the law. It says you have to ask me for it, but that's the only requirement. And I'm telling you I don't have it. So that's the end of the conversation. So he has no taxes deducted, and so he also has no driver's license because they won't give him one without it, and he says he can't be made to get it. So occasionally the police arrest him and put him in jail for no driver's license.
Right.
And so he basically goes to war with them, and he knows people and he knows the system, so he files an IRS criminal investigation against the police department and against the court system for fining him and confining him illegally under the tax code. And so he's constantly in something with them. He's a righteous man, and so sometimes he'll come up missing for 1 or 2 or 3 months, and he'll have been in jail somewhere for something. Then he'll get out, and they wind up having to settle with him or to do something and drop all of his charges. His record's spotless because he gets everything expunged. But I don't know, he's dependable to preach the word of God, but his house, and he wanted to be listed as one of the states, and I put him on there. And so when he was real active and stuff, then I'd give people his name and his email, and people would correspond with him, and he'd minister to them on the phone. Sometimes they would come there and have services at his house. They run their home church the way they see fit. For example, if you said, say if me and you talked privately and we went through various things and you was, in the same belief, and you said, hey, I'd like to be a pastor of a home church. This is where my home is. I can have services here on a regular basis. Sometimes it might just be my family, sometimes friends and neighbors, but, we'll have at least one service a week. Could be on a Tuesday morning. It doesn't have to be exact. It's just, right. You're regularly doing that, and you say, I'd like to be ordained and have these services, then we help you do that.
Okay. So unfortunately, because he doesn't have a Social Security card or number, he gets into a lot of trouble.
Yes.
Isn't that interesting?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I recently read that a lot of people were brought up with the belief that we need one, and a lot of people are told that, but we actually don't need a Social Security number.
Right. That's correct.
My other question is, another woman on the call mentioned a statistic that 70 to 80% of the people that are targeted are women.
Right.
And I'll add that most of them are single women or divorced women living alone. And I'm one of those. And it appears to be they have a plan or an agenda to asset strip people that own homes. Mine, of course, has been vandalized. One of my questions is, what are the methods that people use to get into your home when your doors and windows are locked?
Well, I can't speak for people outside of law enforcement because they have a lot of CIA operatives that are taught all kind of things that I can't possibly fathom how they're taught and what they can access and what they can do. I don't know, but I can tell you that various police departments across the country, not all, not even maybe a lot of them, but then there are others that they have people that have been locksmiths before that become a policeman, or a police department buys the Slim Jims that open car doors. They also have more modern universal tool sets, and they actually have a car Bible, and it's on their online system. So, say if you had a 2004 Chevrolet Silverado, then they can look at the configuration of the door, and they have certain tools they can push down in the window to relieve the lever to get in the car. If it is an OnStar system, the police can actually call them and tell them they want them to electronically unlock the car, and they'll do it. I've seen it happen before. And then some police departments also get these lock pick sets. And so you can work with a car, it can work with a house. They can pick a deadbolt, or another thing there's a handy gun. When I say a handy gun, it's shaped like a gun, but it's got a lot of things at the bottom of it, and you put it up on a door and you keep clicking it, and it'll just keep going through all the tumblers till it goes back, and then you just turn it and the door opens. So some police departments have those, and the reason that they use it, and a lot of them use it for the correct reason, I can't guarantee they all do, is because, say if somebody said, my mother's in this house, and I've been calling all morning, she's not answering, her car's here, and I'm worried something's happened to her. Well, if that, we got two choices. We can kick in the door and damage her door, and she might just be in bed asleep. So you're going to be really mad if we tore her door in. Of course, she could be having a heart attack, too. We don't know. But a lot of departments say, we're going to keep that lock set because they're going to run that thing in there. You can run it in and open the door in about 10 or 15 seconds. It's going to probably take that long to bust the door open, or longer. So you're going to save their door and get in the house. So they have those tools to get in like that.
Okay.
That's the only thing I know.
Okay. Well, Chief Daymond, this is our final question of the evening, and it is from Richard in North Carolina.
Yeah, this is Richard Lovelace Sr. I got a very serious situation. I'd like to get your thought on something. I got tired of organized crime in the early 90s, and I turned them down to make hundreds of thousands of dollars. My target had escalated. There's assassination thing put on my family, a hit been put on my family. I already lost 3 family members. I'm in serious trouble here. I got expert reports from experts. Frequency's clearly been identified by experts. And the night my wife laid down my bathtub, I went to the hospital. They hid the body. I called a medical examiner. I said, get him on the phone. He wouldn't let me see her. And I explained to him she had mechanical devices in her body and certain things, and being microwaved caused her death. So I went to the police department and talked to the detective. I laid out the evidence. And he said, you paid a lot of money for this. I said, yes, I did, thousands of dollars that hold up in court. But I tried to get investigation. I couldn't get an investigation. The detective that I talked to left 2 weeks later. He's gone somewhere. They got rid of him. But my question is, he looked at me. He said, when I showed him in reports, he said, could I be done like that? And I didn't answer his question. But I'd like to get your thought on maybe, I talked to Internal Affairs. They told me good luck. And everybody, and I really need to know avenue I could take, maybe to, because my life's in danger in my home with all the brain damage, the broken bones, and so on. I'm still being hurt. I live in a Faraday cage, and I'd like to get your thought on maybe what I could do to get this stopped, because I'm the only one in my home now, and I'm 68 years old, and I can't. I don't know. I'm at a loss. It's criminal, but I can't get anything done, and I just wondering if you got a thought that what I might be able to do.
And you don't know who might be targeting you, or for what reason?
Well, the reason is, like I said, it escalated. The SBI agent was organized crime. The federal judge was organized crime. They sent me to prison, set me up, 1999, being microwaved, and they tried to kill me in there. Microwave, beat, kicked, stomped, all the way through it. And a psychology doctor explained to me how it's being done, radio, microwave, and hologram signals. I survived that. They followed me home. With the machine, they put burns on the body and everything, and then my wife passed. My 6-month-old granddaughter's gone, and others. And luckily, I've been on my deathbed 4 or 5 times, and I survived it because of my supplements and just trying to fight to survive. And I just wondered if you what.
Well, This would require me to ponder, think on it, and pray some. I mean, in other words, it's something that, after we get off the phone, before I go to sleep, I'll be praying about it and asking God to give me some guidance, something to tell you, show you, or that He would give you or show you, whatever He sees fit to resolve this. I don't have a ready answer for you. That's going to require some deep thinking.
Yeah.
And I
appreciate it.
Yes, sir. You just put the proposition to me, so I'm going to have to put my mind to it. But I will.
Well, I just feel like I can't survive much longer with all the damage and still being hurt in such a way, and it's just terrible. The doctors, even my medical doctors I can't get medical help for broke bones. I can't get, they just refuse to do anything without medical help, and being under what I'm under. I can't run, I can't hide. Only thing I'm trying to do is survive. That's all.
Yes, sir. Well, I think that I probably have to have a day or two to really ponder and think this, but I would maybe hope, I've got church later today and I got some family obligations, but I would think that possibly Monday, maybe Tuesday, I can contact Derek and give him some suggestions that he might give to you. I mean, I won't let it rest. I'll
well, you want my phone number?
Well,
I'll be
trying to work through. Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah, I understand.
I'm trying to work through him because
okay.
if I do it with you, then the next person I have to do with them and so forth to be fair to everybody. But with every group I deal with, I have a point person, and they're usually the only one I talk to 98% of the time.
Okay.
But if it becomes necessary, then I'll get your information from Derek and deal with you direct if it comes to that point we need to do that.
Okay, I really appreciate it. I really appreciate that. Thank you a lot.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Thank you for your prayers.
Yes, sir, absolutely.
Okay, thanks for your question, Richard. Well, Pastor Daymond, thanks so much for hanging in there for all this time. I didn't expect you to stay this late, but boy, you really have.
Yes, if I was a little bit younger or had a little bit more strength, I probably could go another hour or so. But yeah, I'm just, my brain's wore out. I got to give it some rest.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It's been my pleasure and my honor to serve and help my fellow man, and in this case, fellow man and mostly ladies. And there has to be, like I was taught in investigations, you have to basically have a blank sheet of paper, and then you have to write who the victim is. And then you have to write down how were they victimized. And, is that a civil issue or is that a criminal issue? If it's a civil issue, then they go and they have to sue people in court. If it's a criminal issue, criminal conduct, then I have to try and say, okay, it was this. This is how you build a case. Then the next thing is you say, who specifically did this, or who is alleged to do this, or whom, how many people was alleged to do this. Then if you do that, then you've got to say, how did they have the opportunity to do it? What was their motive to do it? You have to start establishing all these things. And then you have to connect the dots, and, that's one of the things that starts taking up a lot of time per case, per person.
Right.
But I'm saying I'm connecting a tremendous amount of similarities, and I had one of my most experienced chiefs of police told me, he said, if two or more people are having very similar circumstances, you got to figure out what is the commonality that they realize and what is the commonality that they don't realize. Like both of them have a brother that's a cop at so-and-so city.
Right.
That this man and this person, they didn't know it, but they're a cousin to this other woman that's over here in the school district that does da-da-da-da-da. He said, so you got to start extrapolating outward as far as you got to go to infinity to find out what is the effect that's bringing this. And he was real smart, real damn smart and intelligent, and he taught me a lot of things about investigations that really cranked me up about 27 years ago to the next level. So I'm going to have to do a lot of thinking about this and a lot of contemplating, a lot of prayer to try and, basically everybody wants a remedy.
Right.
How do we stop it? Well, we got to find out. We don't have to find out why they're targeted. It would be nice because once we found out, then we'd know how to find other victims and help them.
Uh-huh.
We don't have to know, but it's helpful. But if we know why they're targeted, then we probably know who's doing the targeting. That helps me narrow it down really fast. If I don't know that, I can do it, but it takes a lot longer. Then they want a remedy. They want to shut it off. They want to stop it. But we have to know who it is to find out who they are, where they're at. Then there are remedies that I think we can make it stop.
I believe it's doable. It's been a puzzle all these years as to what is the formula to make it all stop.
Right.
Up to this point, we have really, and this is one of the things we've been trying to achieve, and that is an investigation. Somebody that would sit down and examine these cases and try to see what is going on and how we address it. So that will be an investigation. We haven't really had someone to do that.
Right. So do you have people that's affected in basically all 50 states or most of the states, or what does it look like from your point of view?
Okay, when you say people, what do you mean exactly?
Okay, the targeted individuals.
We have targeted individuals, in all 50 states.
Okay. And is there any states or any region that seems to be disproportionate to the rest?
Yeah, California.
Okay.
California is really the hotbed of targeted individuals. The greatest number of them, numerically, is in California, particularly Southern California.
Right.
Also, at the same time, Los Angeles County has the greatest concentration of military-industrial types of enterprises in the United States. And they will tell you that on their Orange County website, that is the greatest concentration in the U.S., which corresponds to numerically the greatest number of targeted individuals. So there's probably some type of correlation there, although we don't really see it per se, but it probably...
Something that comes to my mind is called a collateral targeted individual. Collateral, meaning not necessarily them, but somebody around them, or the accidental overage, meaning like something's supposed to be over here at this house, but it's at your house instead.
Right.
Or, collateral, family, friends, neighborhood. That sometimes something isn't intentionally done. It is done for another purpose, and you just get hit with whatever you get hit with. In other words, you could consider yourself a targeted individual, and maybe you really are. Maybe you are having all these symptoms, and there are symptoms of these specific attacks, but the attack is not necessarily meant for you, and it's something else in the area going on that affects you. I mean, 1,000 things running through my mind. The more I talk out loud to myself, the more I'm thinking about possibilities and coming to like conclusions, and then connecting more and coming to more conclusions.
Right, and now in those particular instances, then it would seem that perhaps relocating would solve the problem. However, most cases, when people do relocate, it follows them.
Okay.
in most instances.
Yes. I'm thinking about a particular case that I heard about that a woman was in Nevada, and I'm wanting to think she was, up in the high desert somewhere, but I can't really remember. But she said, if you get right in this area, and this was an investigative report I was watching, and the woman said, I hear a humming noise in my head. Sometimes it gets louder, and sometimes it gets much quieter, but it never stops, and it's a humming noise. But if I get a certain amount away further, it greatly depreciates. It never stops, but it gets much less. And she said, if I get to a certain far away, it does stop. And she says, but then maybe in several days or several weeks, it'll start wherever she is. And so they found, I think it was a little over 100 people in that area kept hearing these noises in their head. And first of all, they didn't say nothing, but as people began to talk, it was over 100 of them. And so they did some research and found certain minerals in those areas, and the minerals in those areas, along with some radio towers and radio works, were setting off certain frequencies by accident that was causing some of this. And so they shut down one of these towers, and it stopped. But this tower had been around, so it actually was a power tower that the electromagnetic field, because of the minerals in the ground, was causing it to come up. So it was nothing nefarious. So they talked to the county commissioners, and so they told whoever, you're going to have to move this somewhere else because it's affecting people's mental health and their physical well-being. So they tackled it as a health issue.
Oh, I see. Well, well, anyway, I hope it's at least, well, in some cases, that's all that would be needed to happen, solve those issues. Something to think about.
But I do absolutely believe that there are men and women, and according to here, that there's a disproportionate number of women, and then they are single, divorced, widowed, whatever the case may be, that are highly educated women, and so that those things way out of place. So there has to be a reason why it's these women, this one sex, and a certain type of demographics in that sex. So that tells me it's more focal. That wherever this source is coming from, it's targeting these individuals very, very specific.
There's also there's also a demographic that will be important to look at, and that is that over 90% of the victims are single individuals. So it could be that they are targeted because single people really do not have the same type of support network as someone that's married. Maybe they're looking at that. So there must be some reason why there is such high numbers of single individuals. So that is a common demographic in our group.
Well, I think we'll figure it out, and we'll climb the mountain together and try and figure out how to get this remedy and stop it.
Okay. Well, we appreciate you taking the time to be with us tonight, Pastor Daymond, and you've been incredibly patient, listening to everyone and resilient and so forth. And all much, much appreciated.
Yes, sir. Thank you. God bless all of you. Have a blessed day. And I will pray and do the very best I can to help you figure out a remedy.
Okay, great. Thanks very much.
Yes, sir. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye. Okay, everyone, I guess we still have 77 people here. We still have a lot of people on the call. This time I'm going to go ahead and switch gears. Okay, everyone is still muted. At least most of it. Let me try this again.
Yeah, I got all that stuff.
Okay. All right, guys. Everyone's muted at the moment. However, you can press *6 on your telephone if you'd like to speak.
That was really great, Derek. How did you ever find this guy? He's wonderful.
He is wonderful, and I hope he comes back.
Yeah.
He's amazing. He's really eye-opening as a law enforcement professional. He has a lot of insight into what we're experiencing and interfacing with these agencies and so forth.
Yeah.
And fascinating stories he can tell about and the capabilities that they have way back in the 90s.
Yeah.
So here, some of the things he shared with us, I think, has resolved some of the arguments that have been raging in the community for so long.
Yeah, he confirmed a lot, didn't he?
Yeah,
he's really open, but he's also very balanced. I like him a lot.
I do too. I thought he was he's analytical. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, he has. And guys, if tonight wasn't enough, if you still like to hear more from him,
yes,
he tells me he has over 200 videos on YouTube.
Wow.
What? On what?
Look under. See, is it Chief Daymond Jones?
I mean, what is it about? What are his videos about?
Well, obviously I haven't had time to look at all of them, but he comes from a sovereign type of viewpoint. So some of his videos are about, oh gosh, where is that coming from? Okay, I'm going to have to kind of mute it for people. If I can find where this is coming from. Hold on.
I found his email address.
Okay, well, some of his videos, like I said, he's a sovereign type of individual. And I noticed on one of his, I was watching one today, where he spent a lot of time explaining how to deal with police officers that ask you for your ID and how you shouldn't give police officers your ID. And so he was talking about the law and instances where that can work against you when police officers do have your ID and things like that. Comes from experience, and he makes a lot of sense. It's not something that I would recommend, but that's what he is telling people. He has that's just one that I saw, and he has others with some of these groups that he's in. He says he's with the NRA and a lot of the Second Amendment type of groups. He's a pastor of a church, and they are Bible believing, and so there's that as well. So he comes with a set of beliefs that that may or may not jive with a lot of people in the community, but he has a good heart. He does. You can tell that he wants to help his fellow man, however that he can, and that's really what's important for us. How much he'll be willing to devote to that, I'm not sure. He said he has a lot of commitment. His time is he's pulled in a lot of directions. So I'm not sure when he'll be able to come back, but hopefully he will at some point.
Well, maybe we can just start amassing questions and ideas and stuff like that, and when he comes back, we'll just deal with it on a call.
Maybe once he's had some time to digest this information, maybe I can contact him and see what he's come up with in terms of how this can be remedied, because he knows, obviously has, amazing connections.
Yeah.
And he may have some ideas as far as who we could talk to get the ball rolling and getting this resolved.
He even knows where MK Ultra took place. He was talking about that hospital down in the South.
I have to say, I've had discussions with probably 15 different psychiatrists and psychologists, and probably 2 or 3 of them had a slight remote idea of what MK Ultra was. The other had absolutely no idea, and I'd explain it to them. It's quite preposterous how there's like there was a massive operation going on like that. And I'm sorry, is there a bit of an echo?
Yep, there is. Okay. If you're not talking, could you start? That might help. If you're not talking, if you could start. Okay, great, thanks.
So yeah, I mean, it's just it's good that he is aware of that. He's also I think he's somewhere in his 50s or 60s, so he's been around for a while. Definitely has some wisdom. I think he's definitely got a lot of positive aspects to himself. There is also I notice he does tend to maybe trail off a little bit. I noticed you, Derek, kind of regrouped a couple of times and directed the conversation into a certain aspect that you were aiming for when things kind of got derailed a little bit. But I think overall, I mean, he just did a 4-hour no pee break sit down. You know what I mean? That says something towards his character.
Well, yeah, absolutely.
I wanted to throw something out about many people mentioned the mental institutions, and so did he. I was just reading a translated book on Russia brainwashing. It was written by the Russians during the communist time. And they talked about mental institutions, of course, they're famous for that. But they were saying that the very same thing he said, that when the workers there questioned the torturous acts, the psychiatrists were supposed to say, well, we're helping the mental patients. And the reason they use torture is because when somebody's tortured, they're easier to hypnotize and change their mind. And that's how they would reprogram them into communism. And I found it very interesting that he said that same thing. This book is amazing. You will read this book and you will go, God, this is happening now. To us and to this country. It's an amazing book. But when he said that, I thought, oh, my God, that book I just read said that.
Another thing that I think should be a big focus within the community itself is, Derek, I wanted to ask you as well as Ella, I thought I had a bit of an idea where maybe there could be like a I know both you and Ella have big audiences, and I thought if a really good idea would be an ability for victims to put, like, kind of like a big poster board where everybody could put certain symptoms that they're going through and certain remedies that they have come across over the years. You know what I mean? If somebody's suffering from some sort of certain symptom or anything, and they have developed, I noticed a lot of people have kind of made suggestions of certain things that they're going through that really help. If there would be a big kind of massive community board where people could post stuff like that, I think would be a very positive
Eric
thing.
Eric has a shielding manual that does that.
Yeah, and actually, and someone has sent around something, what you're saying, it's some type of a survey or something somebody was sending around that did, what you were talking about. I forget who sent that. But anyway, yeah, there needs to be something like that, like a clearinghouse, a website or something where people can post remedies and people can go and look at remedies and things like that and easy access.
Just
something that can be
spot. You know what I mean? Because both you and Ella and, Targeted Justice and stuff like that, like some of the big websites that have a lot of traffic, if you just had maybe like a certain tab or certain page that was dedicated to something like that and, obviously be moderated and, whatnot, I just think that's a good idea.
I was thinking when I was listening to this man and he was trying to figure it out at the end there, we really need statistics, we really need just a basic statistics.
I brought the Benny thing up on Ella's call, and she said she was going to look into it. I said, is there somebody else that can do this if you can?
Age, sex, where do you live, what was your profession, whatever that we think is important, what are your symptoms? Have you lost a car? Have you lost a home? Have you been made homeless? Have you been institutionalized? Just statistics.
Well, isn't that what William Benny?
But I just said.
Yeah, but we can't get a hold of the statistics. They're mocked up,
To the woman that was just mentioning, the list of things that are happening to us, Catherine Horton devised an affidavit that is by far the most comprehensive. It took me more than 3 hours to complete it, and she's collecting them, and it asks all of the questions and more of what you mentioned, and she also leaves blank spaces for you to add things that are happening to you. She also has a picture of your body, where to mark your body to show where you're getting hit, where you're targeted.
Well,
so she's collecting them. Excuse me?
Is she going to share that information?
She's filing a lawsuit.
Right, but no, I'm saying something for the community. Like when somebody expresses an interest, wherever it comes from, we need to be able to say, okay, here's the breakdown of targeted individuals. They're in this age group, 70% of women, 30% are from California, whatever those percentages are, because that really helps people to understand just the parameters of the program.
Well, I think you're on the right track with that, but I have to say, and I've been saying for a long time in what he said, it is commonality of claim that is going to prove this, that it's happening, and that people will see that we do know what we're talking about. Because as I have sat on calls for all these years, I sit and I listen and I wait. I have very bizarre things that happen to me that I don't speak about. But I wait, and eventually I will hear it come from someone else. And we have to show all the things that are happening to us. It has to be a concerted effort of the community to do this, and we have to decide what to do with that information, because I do believe that that's a very powerful source that's going to help us. That's all I have.
Dr. Horton's website, she has that affidavit. You can download it. She has. She'll tell you exactly how to fill it out. And
on what website?
It's very comprehensive, and her website is stop007.org.
Yeah, but is everybody filling it out?
She also has a video explaining how to complete it, and she provides additional software that allows you to imprint your answers on the document that you download. You can download two separate documents. You can download the PDF so that you can just print it out, and then you can download the other version with the software that allows you to type onto the document and then sign it, add your photo. You add your photo to it, and then you have to print it out and get it signed by a notary.
Right, but is she going to share all of this? I'm saying we need something for the community to have access to.
All the
this is for the community. What you can do is download also other people's affidavits, and you can take those into court with you, and it's like having all those people in court with you, because they're going to have symptoms that are all like yours.
And they're going to be accessible?
Yes, all of them can be downloaded and from her website.
Okay.
Yeah, that affidavit isn't only about electronic harassment. It encompasses everything from the house break-ins, the pet murder, the asset stripping, vandalism. Like I said, it took me over 3 hours to complete it.
Did you say pet murder? Did somebody come into your house and take out one of your cats or dogs or something?
Oh, yes. You can go to the Facebook page called Targeted Pets, and you can see how 2 of my cats had their eyes removed.
Oh, my goodness. You got to be kidding me. Like, physically?
I'm not kidding. No, I'm not kidding you.
Oh, my. Oh.
I'm not kidding you.
That is so horrific. That's somebody that you know is just going to rot in hell for eternity. You know what I mean?
Well, no, what they've done to me and my house and my life, they are going to rot in hell.
But that's not good enough. We need it to stop.
No, it's not good enough. They need to pay. They need to pay
it needs to stop for everybody else.
Every day.
And it's not just my pets that they've done this to. They've done it to other pets. A lot of people don't get on the calls and talk about it because they don't want to be accused of having done it to their own pets. But I'm speaking out because they did it to my pets, and they've done more. They've done more than that.
I'm afraid to get a pet. I want a pet. We're alone. We want a pet.
You're very smart. I won't
get a Rottweiler. Get a massive Rottweiler.
Well, they do it to dogs too. I mean, I've heard I have cats, but they kill. I had a canary also, and I've had the canary for 9 years in a house full of cats, and they killed the canary also, and another TI they killed her dog.
Pit bull. Get a large pit bull.
It doesn't matter. No. You don't understand. The way you're being hit and targeted with direct energy, they do it to the animals too. You can actually see them running across the house, and I've seen this in at least 4 people that shared photos of their dogs and cats' hindquarters. The fur becomes very furrowed. It'll either start to fall out in the back hindquarters, or it bunches up where it looks like, it's like the hair looks like Rastafarian hair, where it bunches up where you need to brush it really hard to get the knots out.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
You know, I wanted to say, Lorraine, I'm really happy that you put that group up on Facebook, because this is one of the things that I would like there to be more knowledge about. And in that group, you can see all of the people that this has happened to, and you can see the pets. And I actually printed out all of it and put it in my folder, because I have talked about my pets being tortured, and I wanted proof that this was happening to a lot of other people.
Yeah.
And it's a very good resource for that. I wish people would, if you're on Facebook, go to Targeted Pets, put your story in there, and then share the hell out of it, because people need to know that this is going on. Also, print it out and put it in your files if you have made claims that your pets have been hurt. You want to print this out, which is everybody's story and pictures of all the pets, and put it in your file to show that this is happening to many, many other people.
Yes, these are innocent animals. And also, you know, while people out there might not believe our stories or even feel compassion to us because we're adults, there are a lot of people out there that care more about animals than people, and there are people that are donating hundreds and thousands of dollars to care for animals around the world. There are a lot of organizations out there. I mean, if it weren't for, I don't care what people say about PETA, People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals, but they have done more. They have gone undercover to reveal the most atrocious things that are happening on factory farms to animals and stuff. But these are the kind of people that have brought to the attention, brought to the public what's going on. Because if you don't know, you don't know. And it's the same thing with us.
And it's really interesting. I know 4 animal rescuers that have been targeted.
I have to say, I've done maybe 4,000, 5,000 hours of research into the epidemic of targeted individuals over the last handful of years, and I quite honestly, I've done a large amount of research, and I've compiled some pretty good documentaries regarding it. But I mean, I've never really come across that issue before. So that means there's definitely not a lot of people complaining about that out there, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So
not everybody has a pet.
Yeah.
Not everybody has a pet. You know, animals don't live as long as humans. So if something goes wrong with a pet, people may automatically think, oh, well, this is a naturally occurring, just the way we've thought. Oh, well, isn't that odd that my tree died? Oh, it happened naturally. But when 5 trees die in a short period of time, it's not a natural thing. And and if you have healthy animals that suddenly die, you know, if it happens once, you may think, well, this is an odd occurrence, and you just fluff it off. When it happens again, it's not such an unusual occurrence. There's something odd going on. If it happens a third time, it's a pattern.
In your specific case, when you have, I think you said 2 different cats that had their eyes physically gouged out, that is so heinous and egregious. And I really hope, as brutal as it would have been, I really hope you would have, it sounds messed up, but I hope you would have taken video footage of that.
I have photos. Unfortunately,
there are photos.
It's disgusting.
On Targeted Pets, on her group, Targeted Pets. That's why I'm saying there have been a lot of TIs. I'm sure we could get a whole list of people who've had their pets hurt. I'm sure we could do that in 24 hours.
A lot of people, don't want to talk about it. First of all, you know, the pets can't speak. So, you know,
Right.
we're talking on these calls, we can explain what's happening to us,
Yeah.
but the animals can't. But I will say that when all of this started happening, I would walk into my house and I have a 501c3 nonprofit cat rescue, so I have more cats than most people. I would walk into my house and I would not see one cat, and I'd be looking and looking, and this is when this all started happening. They would all be hiding underneath a chair, huddled together. And I knew that somebody had been in the house. And this was consistent. It happened often when I couldn't find them, and they'd all be hiding. And then, of course, they grow accustomed to these morons coming into the house, so they're not hiding as often.
Did you ever put any hidden cameras in for? I know it's a Hail Mary long shot attempt. Probably wouldn't work, but did you ever try that?
No, my camera. I've had 4 camera systems. They're all disabled.
Yeah.
They're wiped clean. The batteries drain. My cell phone, the battery will drain. Will be 100%. Like it'll be 100% now, and if I go to